Hi, welcome. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm here with today's live demonstration where we're going to be doing an online class, and we're making a fun fold card today. Sometimes they're called fancy folds, sometimes fun folds, and sometimes I have a name for it. This time I don't. I spent like an hour trying to figure out where I got this idea from and what she called it, and I couldn't find it. I apologize, but I do have the measurements. And the good news is, if you were here last week, you know that I'm working on tutorials that are going to be full directions on how to do not only the 2 cards that we do during the week during our live, which are almost always a fun fold, but 4 more. So you'll get a total of 6 written tutorials. And this time they're definitely worth it because cards like this, I put little, what do they call those things? Where I draw it out. Diagram. I have diagrams and I have step-by-step photos and all of that stuff for making this awesome card. So welcome. Looks like I don't have to switch to my desk because you're already there. Probably a good thing because I forgot makeup today. So good news for you is we're staying on the desk. This starts out like almost all of them do with a regular card base, but I made some cuts in it. And so I wanted to show you guys how I did that. Here is my sample because, you know, I'm on camera. Sometimes weird things happen when I'm on camera, and if they do, I have one pre-cut that's already done. If you want to, go ahead and take measurements, but if you really want the printed tutorial, there's that option too. You can purchase that in my online store on my blog. The tutorial shop is filled with lots of great ideas. But we're going to start out and I'm going to do some scoring. That's going to be the first thing on this card is we're going to score. And I'm scoring at 2 1/8 from either side. Now, this may sound familiar because 2 1/8 from either side is basically half of 4 1/4. And we do this quite often when we're doing a gatefold card. So if you look at it, it's going to fold together and do this. And sometimes that's our card base. We do a basic gatefold card. But today, we're going to do a little extra something in the middle. Now, I did change my blade since I went in and did this. That was my little cue that I needed to replace my blade. And I'm looking for a scrap of paper because I wanted to point out this time I did indeed need a new blade, but not always. And so one of the things I do is I take a piece of scrap cardstock, kind of fold it in half, and I stick it in this groove. And a lot of times you would be amazed how much, I don't know, pulp, is that what they call it? Like little bits of paper that are in that track. And a lot of times cleaning that does away with this kind of furred edge. Let's see if I can focus it. Come on. There we go. See how that's got kind of a furry edge? That's the clue that it either needed a new blade or that track needed cleaned. Since I didn't get it cleaned in time, one of the things I do is I use this little block. And this is basically just sandpaper. It's something that Stampin' Up used to sell back in the day when we did a lot of distressed cards. And it's basically just very fine sandpaper, but it's also kind of about the thickness of an emery board. So if you have a nail file laying around, throw it in your craft drawer because it will get rid of that little fuzz on the edge of your paper. So now I've got it laid out. I've got 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. I scored 2 1/4 from each edge. Now I'm going to come in 1 1/4 inch from the one side. And what I want to do is I want to cut between those 2 score lines. So I'm going to go up to here and come down to here. And I'm going to kind of look. I didn't quite make it all the way to this one, so I'm going to come down and make sure that I'm all the way to that line. Then I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go at 1 1/4. And I'm going to go between the two score lines. Okay. Now I want the middle of this, which is basically going to be 4 1/4 because it's going to be dead center. And this time I'm going to score on the top and I'm going to score on the bottom, but I'm not scoring in the middle. Okay. So you following me so far? You can see that I'm measuring up these two score lines, and then this one's folded in the middle. Okay, but then there's this section, right? This isn't going to stay rounded. Let's see. Move my paper slightly. Okay, so now we just want this little piece right here, which is 1 inch. So I'm going to come in from this score line. I'm going to lay that on the 1 inch. And I'm scoring from there to here. Okay. So that's going to be one side. And I'm going to come over and I'm going to do the same thing at the other end. I'm lining up this 2 1/8 score line with the 1 inch, dropping the blade in the middle and just doing that middle section. And that's going to make my center pop up. If you have a bone folder, go ahead and use that. That would be the best way to do this. And we're basically kind of getting a stand-up card. In order to make it stand up, I had to throw the bottom one forward and then the back one back. Okay, so that will sit on someone's shelf, desk, whatever, as a display just by folding that direction. Now, from here, you can decorate this however you want. I mean, this can be a birthday card, an anniversary card, a congratulations. I mean, you name it. But today, because I promised, we're playing around with the Waterfall Canyon bundle. Okay, now this is a bundle only this month. So if this is on your wish list, now is the time to get this because the dies are only available in September. Then they're going to go away. They're part of a limited release program that Stampin' Up! Is calling the Perfect Partners, because they kind of looked through the catalog and said, hey, several of these stamp sets could really be enhanced with a coordinating set of dies, and they didn't do it originally, so they're adding them now as a limited release. And they have the apple blossoms, which we have played with. They have the fresh cut stems. They have the playful piggies, which we did the week before last. Last week we did tree trimming dies. Today we're doing waterfall dies, and there's also the Yeti to the party, right? Yeti to party. It would fold in an envelope as a gatefold card. So you can go ahead and fold it this way, and it will fit into an A2 envelope. Might have to give a little direction how to prop it up at the other end, but yes, it will fit in an envelope. That was an excellent question. A2 envelope. I see a couple comments from Facebook user. That's one of the things I often recommend is you watch on YouTube, because Facebook needs you to guarantee or allow them permission for me to see your name. Otherwise, I can't see it. And if I can't see it, you don't get included in Prize Patrol. Prize Patrol is what I call it when you type in hashtag Prize Patrol, and a hashtag is the number sign. And by putting that in, you get a chance at winning today's card. If your name is drawn at the end, you're going to get this card in the mail as a thank you for watching from me. This set, you'll look at it and you'll notice, okay, well, what are all those gray things all over? Okay, I'm going to show you this particular photopolymer stamp set. And when I say photopolymer, it's because they're these clear, not to be confused with our other clear stamps. Stampin' Up used to call their red rubber that had the static cling kind of adhesive on the back their clear mount stamps. And that was because they wanted a clear block. That was kind of confusing, and people had some issues with them sticking to the blocks. They have since made them sticky, like really sticky. And now they're called cling mount because they cling to the block. But those are our red rubber stamps, and they still have the foam. They just go on a clear block. Our truly clear see-through stamps are made of photopolymer. That's the kind of material that it is. All of our stamps now mount on clear blocks, which makes it take up a whole lot less room because everything fits in these kind of DVD type cases. But these ones can not only stamp with the detail side of it, which I'm going to do here with some balmy blue ink. But then you can also clean this off. This is one of our Simply Chamois. I cut mine into fourths because they're much easier to use in cleaning on the Stamparatus, which is our stamp positioning tool. But I'm now flipping this stamp over. So this side is the smooth side, which is normally what we have facing the block. In these, you can ink them up, and you can either go ahead and stamp directly, onto your project, or you can stamp it off, which is what we call a second generation. Because I stamped it on my scrap paper and then without re-inking it, went direct to my project. And see, now I've got the color behind. Okay, so that works on all of these various stamps. We've got our rocks, we've got detail, and then we've got the regular. We have the clouds, the trees, bigger trees, our bridge. These are mountain cliffs. And at first, the mountain cliffs threw me a little. Stampin' Up! Has a tendency to do things kind of in a mirror image, and they're not exact, which throws my little accountant brain into overdrive. But I'm told that's an artistic choice. They don't want it to measure up exactly. That's part of what makes it artistic. Okay. There's also, like I said, now we have these dies. Now the die will go ahead and cut this out. And when you do that, it kind of chops off that little outside the lines thing, which kind of helps. And then if you wanted to, you could also color that in a little bit if it really did bother you with a Stampin' Blend. Or you could sponge it on there or blend in brushes. I mean, there's ways to fix it because I've fixed it. It bugs me. It shouldn't. It does. So that's our waterfall. Now we have these cliffs. And again, it took me a minute looking at these things going, okay, what direction do they go? So I whipped out the catalog to see what they did with it. And what they did with it was kind of lay it like this. And again, it doesn't line up exact on the sides. Now, how I got around that was the masking paper. I took our waterfall. Let's see, I need the other side. And I stamped the waterfall onto the masking paper. And then I cut it out. Oops, I want the other side. That side's kind of shiny. I want to stamp this on the paper side, which is the side without the little crack. This crack is on the back side. And if you look at this, it's still kind of wet and it blurs. So don't use that side. Use this side because this side does not blur. Do as I say, not as I do. It's not something Mom used to tell us. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly cut this out. I apologize, I'm kind of bringing it up to my face so I can see. I cut better that way. Even so, I'm probably not being as exact as I would if I wasn't on camera. So I'm trying to hurry so y'all can get to the project. Okay, so then after I have this stamped and cut out, I'm going to go ahead and adhere it over my waterfall. And the waterfall was stamped first because that's what I want in the background. Whatever is going to be the background is what's stamped first and then covered up. Then I want to pick off the backing, which, you know, I probably should have stamped it over one of those seams, right? And then it's going to be a little bit too sticky. I have found that if I stick it directly onto my project, right off the thing, I don't know, sometimes it'll rip my paper, and I don't want it to do that. So I kind of like stick it to my shirt, you know, get the oil off my hands, and then I can lay it over the top. And I ripped it, you know, I am on camera. But the good thing is it doesn't have to be exact, and I can just plop it right back over. And then I have my mountain stamps. So I've got the detailed side down, and I have one for each. Now I can decide, do I want my mountain cliff to come at a downhill angle, or do I want it to be kind of an uphill? So that would determine what side I'm putting these things on. And then I want more of a, let's see, soft suede or crumb cake, some kind of maybe gray granite, some kind of mountain color. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to overlap it a little because I wanted this jagged end to be smooth up against my waterfall. Okay, and then, like I said, these are those reversible stamps. So I'm going to clean them up and flip them over. Making sure that this time I have the flush side out. They're kind of, I call it upside down, but I want the, yeah, there we go. I want the solid piece on this side. Now they're going to flip. So this one is going to go on this side, whereas, you know, originally it was over here. So that's where I'm saying they're not matching up exactly. Throwing me again. But I'm going to go ahead and do a second generation over the top. And again, that's where my pushing it into the waterfall kind of makes it line up better for my taste. Okay. Then you can continue. I've seen lots of people that have continued to stamp, you know, the mountains continuously until they fill up the whole side with mountains. And then also, before I take off the mask, this is when I want to come in and stamp my trees. And I did the trees in a variety of colors. I did pear pizzazz, garden green, old olive, kind of did a mix and match. And you can do this all in first generation in all your various colors, or you can do first and second generation. It doesn't matter. One of the things I will suggest is to start in the middle and then work your way out, because you don't want to end up at the very end not having the right amount of space in the middle. So you always start from the middle and work your way out. And again, see, I'm stamping the tree like right over the top of my waterfall. And that's going to be okay. And you would just continue stamping your trees all over. Okay, so that's going to be Old Olive. Come in with some more Pear Pizzazz. Okay, and then again, I'm still got a lot of white space in there. And I'd seen a lot of people that just went ahead and they continued stamping tree over tree, filling all of that in. And that's totally something you could do. It does look fine. The other thing that I did was I took one of our blending brushes, and then I just came in from the side and blended over. And that helped make these appear to be a whole lot closer together. So again, I'm not going to finish it all out. I do have a finished card I can show you. But after I had all that done, then I went and pulled off my masking paper. And look how beautiful that comes out. See, and don't forget that you can always do a reverse of the masking too, that if I wanted to come back in and get this blended in over here, I can just cut a square, you know, around here and use this, and then I can blend my blue over here to fill this in. So it's kind of reverse masking. And this is all done with stamps. You can also choose to stamp onto cardstock. And with that, you only need to use the detailed side. So let's bring our stamps back in again, clean them off. Let's see, here's my waterfall. Okay, so I want the detailed side. Make sure that's what I've got here. And then I only need one color. And we will get back to our card, I promise. I just wanted to, because this is our first one of the week, I want to show you how these work, because I had the worst time with this set. It just did not click for me. And I do not want that happening to you. Like I've said, stress is a no stamping thing. And it caused me stress, I will admit. So all the little tricks and things I learned, I'm teaching you. So you don't have that problem. That's why I'm here. Okay, so there are our cliffs. I stamped them in gray granite ink onto gray granite cardstock. Here is balmy blue cardstock with balmy blue ink. And then we would just run these through the die cutting machine with the dies from this nifty set. So let's see, that's this one. And then this is this one. So you can see how they match up perfectly. And then by having the colored background of your cardstock, you don't need to do the second stamp. So let me find my card. So this one is strictly stamped. There's no die cuts on this one. It was all stamped. And I just layered it up. So it's basically what I started working with today. I just added more trees along the top and the bridge, some clouds. So that's plain stamps. You can also do it with the dies. This one I stamped in crumb cake ink on crumb cake paper. This was balmy blue. This is smoky slate paper, and I think basic gray ink. And then these little birds, they're die cut, and they have adhesive sheet on the back, which made them super easy to stick down. When I did the mountains this time, they were adhered first, and I put the waterfall over the top, so it kind of hid that unevenness on the inside. And I've talked a lot, so I'm trying to make sure I'm not missing too many questions. This time I took these two and I put one upside down and one right side up. And then I took my waterfall and I cut off the side. And so this made it appear to be coming off the cliff. And then this is our stamped and die cut rocks. These are some of our die cut trees. And then there's just a little bit of blending with the blending brushes. And again, all the directions are in the PDF. So you can get all 6 tutorials for just the $10. For this one, see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This one has our Tahitian Tide glimmer paper in the back. And then I mixed it with the Mountain Air stamp set. If you see this waterfall in the catalog, the very next page was the Mountain Air, which does the same thing. These stamp the detail and then stamp the solid on the same stamp. You just flip it over. So I stamped my waterfall, masked it off, and then I did the mountains in soft suede and then crumb cake. Took a separate piece of paper and I did the trees in old olive and then pear pizzazz, sponged some pear pizzazz over the top. I put my die cut in the machine on a partial cut and only cut the top because the die actually would try to cut the bottom. So I have directions on how to align that in the die cutting machine so that you only cut the top. Of course, that's layered up and, has the label. And then one of my customers said, there's this waterfall in Oregon that is absolutely gorgeous. You should try to make that one. And she shows me these pictures and it was so tall that it was taller than my stamp. So I did it. I extended it. So this is that same stamp and I just adjusted it to make it taller. And again, the PDF directions show you how I did that in step-by-step photos on how I stamped it to get the full length, but also how I die cut it. And this is going to be Thursday's live. So this was card 5, and then this is 6. So we're ready to put this one together now. Have I bored you long enough with like all the possibilities you can do with this stamp set? Did I lose people along the way? Are you liking what I did? Let me know. I definitely don't want to lose people, but I also don't want you frustrated. Stamping is fun. This is how I relax and how I beat my depression and, make friends and de-stress. We want this to work, right? We want it to be smooth. Okay, so I can bring in one of my card bases, either the one I did ahead of time or the one we just did. But either way, we're going to go ahead and decorate it up with some layers. So my base is crumb cake. I'm putting soft suede over the top. And then I have some designer series paper. And this is our Color Families designer series paper. It sometimes gets missed in the catalog. I often have to point people to it because they go, I didn't see that. Where was that? So let me see if I can put my fingers on it quickly. Normally, all of our cardstock is here. We know that our numbers down here are going to show us all the various, the Stampin' Blends, the ink refill, the ink pad, the cardstock, and they're this way because they all color coordinate. If you pick a garden green or a mossy meadow in any of those things, they're all going to match exactly. So that's why that's laid out that way. But then back here, we have them in packs. So if you wanted just 2 of everything in a color family, which is how we refer to our groupings of colors. This neutrals collection is what we call a color family. We have neutrals, regals, subtles, brights, and then our 2 in colors. And you can buy a combination pack of those over here on page 126. So that's one thing people miss. And then we have all our designer series papers. And then this is where you can get them in the color families. And they did make it bigger in this catalog, but they only show one family. So this is shown in soft subtles. But in the fine print, you can see here the numbers for the various sets. And what I did was I used the neutrals. And in this one, I used gray granite. This time I'm using the soft suede. And no, this is crumb cake. Soft suede and crumb cake. So because this was 2 1/8 by 5 1/2, this little section, this is 1 7/8 by 5 1/4, 1 5/8 by 5. Okay. These are the same width. These are going to be the 1 7/8. So 1 7/8 by 1, because these were 1 1/4. This is 1. So this will go down one more. So this will be the 1 5/8 by 3/4. Okay, so I have 4 of those. So I've already lost one. Go figure. I had these all cut out ahead of time. Does anybody have any questions so far about this card or this stamp set? The sales that are going on right now? Have you all been over to the store to check out what this week's sales are or read this week's newsletter? Because every week of September, they're having what they call weekly deals, where they're taking some of the items they have a little bit of overstock on and they have discounted them. So each week there's supposed to be different products that are featured in that sale. It's a great way to stock up on some of your favorites. I know last week I got a bunch of the brushed brass butterflies because they were on sale. And they're great for mailing because they're nice and flat. There's 1, 2, 3. There's one more of those somewhere here on my desk. I'll find it as soon as I turn off the computer, I'm sure. So I'm doing this with Stampin' Seal. You could choose to do it with liquid glue if you wish. Now, I did try this with some fancier designer series paper, but it kind of took away from the focal point, which is going to be the waterfall. But I'm just centering those in the little spots around here. Aha, there it is. Told you I had one. Caught it out of the corner of my eye over there. Okay. So there's our outside. Now you could choose to decorate these if you want to. I chose not to. Again, it kind of just took away. This is 2 inches by 2 3/4. And that's going to fit right here in the middle. And so to go in that, this is 1 3/4 by 2.5. And so this is what I'm going to stamp onto. Now, this time I'm just flat out stamping onto it. This time it was kind of a mess. I stamped an entire card front and hated it. I mean, like hated it. And so I just kept cutting it down smaller and smaller. And that's how I ended up with this little piece. But it worked perfect for this card. So let's get that stamped. Now, what I wanted to do with this one is I was trying to create Shoshone Falls. Any of you who have been to Twin Falls or have seen some photos on my page, you know that we have Shoshone Falls just a couple miles from my house. And it's what they call Niagara Falls of the West, in that it's, I guess, not as wide as Niagara Falls, but it is taller. And it doesn't have quite this length. So this time, instead of making it longer, I'm making it shorter. And that was actually easier because all I had to do is when I went to ink it up, I put it on my stamp pad like that, like leaving that top portion off. And if I did get any ink on this, I could come back in with, you know, my simple chamois or something and just wipe off that excess. I'm going this way. Okay. And just stamping it right there. So there's the bottom part. Then again, remember these are the two-sided stamps. So I'm going to clean this off and flip it over. So now this is the smooth side. And I'm going to do the same thing. And then I'm only going to go up to that first little line. Okay, probably should have done second generation. So let's try that again. See, so sometimes I don't think about it, but boy, does that make a difference. So see, this is with the second generation backing, and that's solid. So I definitely like this one better. See, that's why we stamp before we adhere. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my little cliffs. I can't get the name. Let's see. Do I still have my mask? What did I do with my mask? Okay, this is just quick and easy. I'm not being very detailed, but oh, and I didn't make it unsticky first. Normally, I would reach for the mask I used before because you can use it multiple times. I will often stick it on the inside of my stamp case just for that purpose, but I moved it, you know. Oh well. So now I'm going to stamp this a little bit of an angle because I want the cliff to be kind of flat on top because at Shoshone Falls, they're flat. They're not an angle at all. So I make that more flat by just tilting my cliff. And then I can come in and stamp with the back side of that, as I said, or we can come in with the blending brush and fill it in that way. And then the top we can do either, for the water, because the top is a pool kind of, or a lake. And I want that in blue, which we can either do with the blending brush or watercolor pencils, blender pen, you name it. But there's the water and then there's the sky. So either way, that's blue. And then there we go. We're all set. So that is ready to assemble, and then we're done. So, I mean, this card is very quick because the bulk of our show today, or my class, was showing you how to use the entire set and how these stamps work in conjunction. So just making this card, you can see how quick and simple it is. I mean, and couldn't you see this done in Christmas colors with maybe a Santa or an elf in the middle? Maybe that little penguin, he would fit perfect in there. Or the deer, or we could do the ladybug in the middle. I mean, there's so many things you could do with this. And then you can just put another piece of paper back here or on the sides for writing your message. And then, like I said, it fits into an A2 envelope just like that. So that was today's card. And as I said before, Thursday we will come back and we will extend the waterfall. And we're going to make it longer. So make sure that you come back on Thursday to see how this one's made. So has everybody typed in hashtag prize patrol? Are we ready to spin the wheel and see who gets today's card? So let's remove this and add this and spin. So there we go. Congratulations, Amy. You are today's winner. Please go and claim your prize so that I do have your mailing address. I need you to type in to the URL bar. So go to where you put in the website address and type this entire thing in from the HTTPS all the way through to Prize Patrol, because it is not a link on my blog. But if you go there and you give me your address, I will mail off this card to you as a thank you for being one of our watchers today and making this a very fun fold card. And if you miss this, you can always play it on replay, and it's going to be out there on YouTube for you to check it out. So thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.